You are on the shoulder right now, or you have been, or you will be. The car is not broken in any serious way. Something came loose, something is dragging, something fell where you cannot reach it. And a tow truck is $150 to $200 hooked, plus mileage, plus whatever the shop charges to look at it Monday morning. In 1964, a man in that same spot walked to the trunk, took out a wire coat hanger, and drove home. Not as a joke, that wire was standard equipment. Every service truck in America carried a bundle of them behind the seat, and they solved a specific list of roadside problems that has barely changed in 60 years, because the parts they held up are the same parts that still come loose today. Here is what makes the wire worth carrying. It is steel, about 14 gauge, it will not burn, it holds a bend, it can be twisted tight with pliers, and it costs nothing. A muffler shop charges $180 to replace a hanger that broke. That same wire, twisted around the pipe and the frame, will hold it until you decide when and where to spend that money. I ran a tow truck and a two-bay repair shop for 30 years. Most of the calls I answered did not need a truck. They needed 3 feet of wire and somebody who knew where to put it. By the end of this, you will know the whole list, the 2 places a hanger has no business going on a modern car, and how to keep one where it does you good. Number 18 is the one that saves the most tow bills in this country, and almost nobody knows the part even exists. Number 8 is what men still do wrong at a locked car, and it costs them a door repair. And number 1 costs nothing, weighs nothing, and it is the reason a shopman never once called a truck for his own vehicle. These 25 tricks were never about a coat hanger. They were about men who could tell the difference between a car that is broken and a car that is only interrupted, and who understood that the second one gets you home. Let us count down the 25 lost garage tricks 1964 mechanics did with a coat hanger. Number 25, holding up a dragging exhaust. A rubber hanger perishes and lets the pipe down onto the road, and that scraping is the sound of a $600 system wearing through. You let the pipe cool, loop wire around it and around a frame member or a bracket, and twist it tight with pliers. A station man in 1964 did it on the shoulder in 5 minutes. It is not a repair. It is a $180 muffler shop appointment moved to a day of your choosing. Number 24, keeping the pipe off what it must not touch. Wire also positions a pipe, and position matters more than most men know. A hot pipe resting against a brake line, a fuel line, or a wiring loom will destroy it, and that is a fire or a brake failure, not an inconvenience. You use the wire to pull the pipe back to clearance, at least an inch from anything soft. A shopman in 1964 checked clearance before he called it done. The noise was the symptom. What it was leaning on was the danger. Number 23, fishing keys out of a floor vent. Keys, a phone, a wallet card, anything that drops into a defroster vent or down beside a seat rail. You put a small hook in the end of the wire and go in slowly with a light. A garage man in 1964 recovered more keys this way than he ever cut. The dash does not have to come apart. It only has to seem that way to someone selling the labor. Number 22, clearing the sunroof drain. Sunroofs have rubber tubes running down inside the pillars, and when one plugs, the water goes into the headliner and down the rocker instead of out under the car. You feed soft wire in gently to break the clog, then flush with water and confirm it runs out at the bottom. A man in 1964 did the same on cal drains. It was never the glass that leaked, it was the pipe underneath it. Number 21, rigging a hood that will not latch. A broken cable or a worn catch means a hood that lifts its speed, and a hood coming up takes the windshield with it. You loop wire from the hood edge to the grille or bumper support on both sides and twist it snug. A station man in 1964 wired a hood before he let a car leave. It is not how you drive for a year. It is how you get to a shop without losing the glass. Number 20, holding a plastic splash shield off the road. That plastic tray under the engine tears loose at one corner and you hear it slapping at 50. Men rip them off, and then road spray gets straight onto the belt and the accessories. You wire it back up through its own mounting holes. A shopman in 1964 did it on the metal versions. That shield is not trim. It is what keeps water off the parts that turn. Number 19. Probing the air conditioning drain. If the passenger carpet is wet and the windows fog, the evaporator drain is plugged, and the water is going into the car instead of onto the ground. You find the short rubber tube through the firewall and clear it gently. A garage man in 1964 checked it every summer. It is not a leaking heater core every time. Half of them are a garden hose the size of your finger, blocked. Number 18. Retracting a stuck brake caliper for a pad change. This is the one nobody knows about. On most cars, the parking brake works through the rear caliper, and its piston screws in rather than pushing straight, so pushing on it accomplishes nothing, and the caliper hangs by hose alone unless you support it. You hang the caliper from a spring with wire so the hose carries no weight. A stretched hose is a brake failure. The wire costs nothing. Here is something nobody is counting. The men who ran the wreckers in the 2-bay shops, who could tell from a phone call whether a car needed a truck or a piece of wire, are nearly all gone. The youngest are past 80. They did not keep it in a manual. They kept it in their hands in 30 years of kneeling on gravel beside other men's cars in the dark. When they go, the wire stays in every closet in America, free, exactly where it always was, and the knowing goes into the ground. That chain ran driver to apprentice for 50 years, and then dispatch became an app and nobody asks what is wrong anymore. If this is worth something to you, take 1 second right now and hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on that notification bell. That is the only reason a video like this ever reaches the next man who needs it. Number 17. Hanging parts while you work. A muffler, a fuel tank strap, a wheel well liner, a heat shield you have unbolted at one end. You wire it up out of the way instead of holding it with a knee. A mechanic in 1964 hung half a job on wire while his hands did the rest. It was not laziness. It was 2 hands doing the work of 4. Number 16. Silencing a rattling heat shield. Those thin metal shields over the exhaust rust at the tabs and buzz at idle, and shops quote the whole pipe assembly to cure a rattle. You wrap wire around the shield in the pipe, twist it tight, and the buzz stops. A shopman in 1964 fixed it in a minute under the car. The shield is not decoration. It keeps exhaust heat off the floor above your feet. Number 15. Making a drip catcher and a funnel. Bend wire into a ring, hang it under a fitting, and hook a rag or a bag to it, and you catch what would have run down your arm. Bend a length into a channel, and you steer a stream of coolant into a pan instead of onto the driveway. A garage man in 1964 shaped wire for whatever the job needed. It was not a tool he bought, it was a tool he made for one afternoon. Number 14. Holding a bumper cover or trim in place. A plastic bumper cover with a broken tab hangs down and catches the tire, and the clips do not exist at any parts store on a Sunday. You wire it back through an existing hole to a solid mount. A station man in 1964 did the same with chrome. It looks temporary because it is. Temporary and on the car beats correct and in a ditch. Number 13. Guiding a wire or a cable through a panel. When you are running a new wire behind a dash or through a firewall, you push the hanger through first, tape the wire to the end, and pull it back through. A mechanic in 1964 fished every wire this way. The hanger does not do the wiring. It only goes first where your hand cannot. Number 12. Reaching a dropped bolt in the engine bay. A bolt goes down into the valley between the engine and the firewall and lands on a shelf you cannot see. A hook on a wire, a flashlight, and patience get it out. A shopman in 1964 fished them out rather than start over. Nobody ever put an engine back together short a bolt on purpose. They did it because retrieving one seemed impossible. Number 11. Never near a modern wiring harness or an airbag. This is where the 1964 habit has to change. Probing blindly behind a modern dash means shorting a harness, and worse, The yellow connectors are airbag circuits, which can deploy and break an arm. If you are going deep behind a dash, the negative battery cable comes off first and the car sits 10 minutes. Their dash had a radio and a heater. Yours has a computer and an explosive charge. There is a reason nobody tells you a hanger is worth carrying. Price out the alternative. A tow is $150 to $200 hooked and more with mileage. Diagnostic time to look at whatever you came in for is $120 to $180. An exhaust hanger replaced at a muffler shop is $150 to $250, mostly labor, on a rubber part that costs about $8. And a car towed on a Friday sits until Monday, so the number is really the tow plus the shop plus 2 days you did not have. Now price the wire. Nothing. It is in the closet. Nobody makes a payroll telling you that the difference between a $400 weekend and a 10-minute delay is 3 feet of steel and knowing where it goes. The craft was not lost. It was made unprofitable, and then it was allowed to die. Do me one favor before we get to the top 9. Hit like, subscribe, and turn that bell on so the next one finds you. That is the entire price of this. Number 10. Cleaning the seat rails and window channels. Grit and coins pack into seat tracks until the seat will not slide, and window channels fill with debris until the glass drags on the motor. You rake both out with a hook on a wire, then lubricate. A shopman in 1964 did seats for the men who drove all day. It is rarely a worn motor. It is a track full of everything that ever fell out of a pocket. Number 9. Retrieving what fell into the wheel well or the frame. A socket goes down a frame rail and rattles for the life of the car. A hanger with a hook and on a good day a magnet taped to the end gets it back. A mechanic in 1964 kept a magnet in the box for exactly this. A lost socket is a few dollars. The rattle it makes is a noise you will chase for years. Number 8. What men do wrong at a locked car. The 1964 hanger through the window seal worked on cars with an exposed vertical lock rod. Modern doors have side airbags, cables, and wiring inside, and the wire does not find a rod, it finds a harness or a window regulator, and it damages the weather strip on the way in. A locksmith is $75 to $150. Almost every car built since the 1990s also has a mechanical key hidden in the fob and a keyhole under a cap on the handle. Look for both this week in daylight. Number 7. Holding a fan shroud or a loose radiator support. A cracked plastic shroud lets a fan blade contact it and destroys both, and shrouds are dear. You wire the shroud back to a solid point so nothing touches the blade, checking clearance with the engine off. A radiator man in 1964 wired shrouds all summer. The fan did not break the shroud. The shroud sagged into the fan. Number 6. Marking and measuring where nothing else fits. Bend a piece of wire to the exact shape of a hose, a bracket, or a bend you need, and carry that shape to the parts counter. Or push it down a filler neck to see where the fluid really sits. A shopman in 1964 walked in with a bent wire instead of a description. A drawing is your idea of the part. The wire is the part's own shape. Number 5. Never for anything under pressure or on fire. A hanger holds and positions. It does not carry fuel, brake fluid, or coolant, and it does not repair a line. Wiring a leaking hose or splitting a fuel line puts you in a car with a fire hazard and no brakes, and a hanger near the exhaust manifold will glow before it fails, so keep the twists back from the hottest section. A shopman in 1964 taught the boundary before the trick. Number 4. Carrying the kit that makes any of this possible. None of it helps in a closet. What lives in the trunk is 3 hangers, a pair of lineman's pliers, work gloves, a flashlight, and a rag. That fits in a coffee can and weighs almost nothing. A garage man in 1964 checked his customers' trunks in October. Every man on this list who got home had one thing in common with all the others. He had the wire with him. Number 3. Knowing what a hanger can and cannot do. It holds up what has come loose. It positions what is moved. It retrieves what has fallen. It clears what is plugged. Those 4 jobs cover nearly every roadside problem that is not actually a broken car. Anything outside those 4, you call the truck and you do not feel bad about it. A shopman in 1964 knew the line exactly. Knowing when to call is part of the craft, not the opposite of it. Number 2, the look under the car before you need it. Twice a year, on ramps or at the curb with a light, you look at the exhaust hangers, the heat shields, the splash shield, and anything hanging low. Anything sagging now is what comes down on the interstate in February. It takes 10 minutes. It is not a repair. It is a standing appointment with the underside of your own car, and it is where every tow bill on this list actually begins. Number 1, believing the car is only interrupted until you have looked. That is all. Because the difference between the man who drives home and the man who waits 3 hours for a truck is almost never skill. It is that one of them got out, got down with a light, and looked at what was actually wrong before he reached for the phone. Most of the time it is hanging, dragging, or plugged. Your grandfather did this without calling it anything. He called it having a look first. Number 1 is not a trick. It is the look that makes the other 24 possible. If this was worth your time, hit like, subscribe, and turn on that bell right now. It costs you nothing, and it is the whole reason I get to keep making these. None of this needed a certification, a scan tool, or a subscription to anything. It needed 3 feet of steel wire, a pair of pliers, a light, and a man who believed that most of what strands people is not a broken car, but a loose one. That was the default setting in every shop in America. Not confidence handed down from a classroom. Confidence built from having knelt beside enough cars in the dark to know how few of them were really finished. We did not lose the wire. It is in every closet in the country, free, exactly where it always was. We lost the hands that knew the 4 things it does, and the old man who came out with the truck looked under the car for 30 seconds, twisted a piece of wire around a pipe, and said, "There, go on home. You do not need me tonight." So tell me down in the comments where you were the last time you got stranded, what it turned out to be, and what the tow cost you. I read every one of these, and about half of them turn out to be something on this list. He is gone now, and most of what he knew went with him. But not all of it, because some of it is in this video, written down at last. So this weekend, put 3 hangers, a pair of pliers, gloves, and a flashlight in your trunk. It costs nothing and takes 2 minutes, and you will forget it is there until the night it saves you $200. Next time I will show you the 1964 jumpstart procedure in the order that protects both cars and why the way most men do it now kills alternators. The craft is not dead. It is 3 feet of wire and a willing pair of knees away.